Hello? There you are. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Stefan. I'm from the Icelandic Football Federation. You want to do the Viking clap now or at the end? I'm only joking. I only do that in the evenings. I just wanted to go over the challenges and sort of the missed opportunities that Iceland has seen in the last couple of years. We believe we have always been overachieving given our population and the fact that you can only stay outdoors for 2 months a year. But recent years have been extremely successful, as most people know. So I just wanted to give you a bit of a background, how we didn't take these opportunities and how we tend to move forward in the future. So, a little bit of background myself. I have been running my own marketing agency in Iceland, working on sponsorships and ambush marketing and branding for a lot of international brands in Iceland. Last January, the new president of the Icelandic Football Federation contacted me and asked me to come in and see how they could do better in revenue generation. It's a very small office, very small organization. There was no one responsible for revenue generation, for example. One people doing all the marketing. It happens when you're in a small society, everyone's multitasking, and it gets ridiculous. The same person is the match manager, he's handling the press, and he's organizing the lad signage on an international match day. So it gets a bit hectic. But it's good for your CV, because you know all the stuff. Briefly. So, a little bit of facts and figures. We're the population of 348,000. We're the seventh smallest of the 55 UEFA countries. 7% registered players. We are always striving to increase the female participation. But we are not new to the women's football, as a lot of countries and brands are jumping on the bandwagon or the wagon. We've been promoting equality and women's football for a lot of years now. And we're very proud of our equality and how we work on women's football. This is a picture from last year's game in Iceland. And no, it was not cancelled. It was paused briefly. So a little bit about the rankings. Like I said, we've always considered ourselves being overachieving, but the recent years we've been extremely successful. Not as successful as we have wanted, but successful. The men's team is 32nd. I believe it's 36 now because of some dodgy friendlies in the Nations League. The women's team is 19th in the FIFA category, and 75 professional players play abroad. I'm not sure if you've seen Simon Sinek on TED Talk. Have you seen it? When he talks about the golden circle. For those of you who haven't, I'm not going to go in depth into it, but it sort of, he's wondering why successful organizations and leaders achieve what they achieve. And he says we shouldn't be asking how, but we should ask why. Because if we ask why we are successful, you sort of get a meaning of the purpose of why we are making footballers. And we believe it's what we call the best coaching for life. We are not making great football players, we're making good people, good citizens. It's a very small country, so we have to have good people. And teamwork is critical. So this is from the last manager who quit now. He talked about coaching for life, and it's something we think is sustainable, and it's something that will be trying to, brand or monetize or somehow export, because there is some reason why we are successful. It's not just luck; it's a lot of hard work also. All coaches are professional and qualified. There are no volunteer or parent coaches. My 6-year-old daughter, when she started practicing football, her first practice, there was a UEFA Pro license coach. She gets the same amount of practice sessions as the boys, etc., etc. So from 6 years old, we're very focused on licensed coaching. Also, what's different about the Icelandic model is there are no academies, no academy clubs. So if for example, it's just my daughter starts practicing with the team that is in our neighborhood. So, and she will, no matter how bad or good she will be, they are obliged to coach her until she's 18. It's a bit like if you were born next to Old Trafford, you'd be practicing with Manchester United until you're 18. Sounds strange, but this is a system that we are very happy with. It offers especially late bloomers. We have 2 or 3 players in the Icelandic national team now who weren't that, how do I say, promising 14, 15, 16. So they were late developers. In an academy environment, they probably would not have been, they would have been chucked out, probably. In the last 20 years, we've been constructing training pitches with artificial turf. There are 130 countrywide. Every school has 1 or 2. It's artificial turf, obviously, because this is a very rare moment of sun in Iceland. It's amazing they got the picture. One thing we're struggling with now, I was in a meeting with a school district, and they're having issues with the girls are not getting access to the pitches. The boys are always kicking them off. So we are now thinking of maybe we should construct, I'm not going to call it pink and blue pitches, but we are thinking of constructing or allocating time specifically. So between 9 and 11, only girls can play. Between 11 and 1, boys can play, because boys in the younger ages tend to be more aggressive. And like I said, we're very proud of our women's team. We try not to talk only of the men's team, even though they get more attention. Last month, we sold out our first international against Germany at the main stadium, 10,000 women's game. Unfortunately lost, but anyway. So I wanted to show you an ad that our main sponsor made about women's football. It was done before the Euros, where Iceland participated in women's. And it's a very good ad, even though it's an airline. It sort of shows you where Icelandic women's football is coming from. And it was very successful. And after the launch of it, registration of young female footballers rose tremendously.
Næst far þú örugglega að vera með. Já.
Útvarp Reykjavík, gleðileg jól.
Wow, mamma, sjáðu! Hún langar ótt. Já, ég ætla að prófa. Mamma! Það var að stela skónum mínum!
A free advertising slot for Icelandair. Anyway, so that was a bit about the background, but we've recently been thrust into the spotlight. These are, I'm not going to bore you much with social media statistics, but these are after we beat England convincingly at the Euros. It's not very impressive. England is not that good at football, as we know. So there was a 33% increase in travel interest just that week after we eliminated England. And I have all sorts of charts and examples of this, but I'm not going to go very much through it. So before the World Cup, we were on cover of all magazines, Time, Sports Illustrated. Everyone wanted to know about the tiny underdog, about how we did it. The world was watching. We were trying belatedly to position ourselves as the world's second team. I believe that if we would have had more time and more resources, we could have done that more successfully. We did a study in the US, and the US people were really supporting Iceland. It's a good thing about the country, actually, that we don't have a lot of enemies. Nobody really dislikes Iceland, unless you've spent the winter there. The World Cup, our first World Cup game against Argentina, where we beat Argentina 1-1. The attention for that game was amazing. It was the highest TV, how do you say it? It was the highest press attendance for foreign media in the qualifying stages. Everyone wanted to see Messi play Little Iceland, and it was a great day for us. I think the TV ratings in Iceland showed that 99.2% of the people were watching the game. I'm always wondering what the 0.8% were doing. I guess I'll never find out. So how did we monetize this? How did we make money of the Euros first and then the World Cup? Our success and the fact that we have a lot of brand associations and values that could be monetized. We didn't. The main reasons, like I told you before, there was no business plan in place. There was no one responsible for revenue generation, lack of know-how, lack of structure, no brand in place. There wasn't even the KSI brand wasn't even registered. So when I came in January, I had to begin with a lot of groundwork, and we're still working on it. And I'm now working with UEFA in a program they call UEFA Grow, where we are developing a business plan for the Team Iceland, a new brand plan for us. And hopefully that's something that UEFA can push to other smaller organizations. Because we saw that it's not just Iceland, it's other European countries who are smaller and have little resources. The national associations do not have large offices. So if we develop this plan successfully, hopefully other smaller organizations can take note. What lies ahead? I believe that we will always be overachieving. We will not always be at the World Cup or the Euros, unfortunately. We might have peaked with this team, hopefully not. But my job is obviously not what happens on the pitch, but off it. How can I make and sell and monetize something that is sustainable? And that's what I was talking about earlier. That's the Icelandic way, how we do it, why we do it, why we make good footballers. I always find it funny that you see all the big clubs, Real Madrid, Juventus, Barcelona, Manchester United, Liverpool, opening up academies in China and India and Africa like they're very good at developing players. We are very good at developing players. Our statistics show that. We don't have to buy them every time. But the environment is changing, obviously. There are opportunities for us. A professor called Chadwick talks about portfolio fans. Have you heard about it? It's the fact that a lot of fans these days have 3, 4, 5 teams they're supporting. It's, of course, due to globalization. A lot of people have their favorite team and their second favorite team and so on, so on. So there's an opportunity for us there to be sort of everyone's second or third national team. There's also changing football affinity. People, like we saw with Ronaldo, the fans, if we can call them fans, moved from Real Madrid to Juventus. So they went with a player, not with a team. That is obviously a threat for a brand like us. There are more real international games. The Nations League has been very successful for us. It's better because we're in a small country. It's hard to get good friendlies. Our next friendly is easy though, we're playing France away. But the challenges for national organizations are of course that we have very little time with the players. We are obviously borrowing the players from the clubs, and we have maybe 4 or 5 days to prepare. So our social media team, our content creation is very limited. We have very limited time to play with the players. And obviously long periods between international games put pressure on us. It's very hard to have a content strategy when you play a game in October and then you don't play until June. So it puts pressure on how you want to engage with your audience, especially if you have, we have, for example, launching a social media campaign in China, and it's very hard to work when there's no games for 8 months. And speaking of France, it's interesting to see that when you don't really hear much about brand France, you hear much about brand Mbappe at the World Cup. And that is something that we believe is an opportunity for us, in the fact that the players of the Icelandic team, with all due respect for them, they play in a team that's good for their career. It's good to be in Team Iceland. We see that Icelandic players are very sought after. We have a per capita record of so many of our professionals become captains of their clubs. I don't remember the statistics, but I think in the last starting lineup, 7 of them are captains for their clubs in Europe, which is amazing. And it shows a little bit about the mentality and how the players have been brought up. And these are sort of the brand associations we are trying to work on. And I believe that there is an opportunity for a national team like Iceland to work on these associations and build a more meaningful and better brand. We could have done so much more in licensing, in shirts, in merchandising during the World Cup, before and after, which we didn't due to a lot of reasons. I saw the talk yesterday about the emerging of fan culture in football shirts, for example. It was a very, very nice talk. And I always cry myself to sleep when I see Nike and Nigeria, because that's something I would have wanted to do for Iceland. And we'll do it for the next World Cup. Takk. Are there any questions or? Yes?
Anyone? Okay.
Does this work?
Yes.
Hello. Oh.
Okay.
Thank you. Gracias. Hello, I'm Marcelo from Brazil. I want to know about a little bit more about the coaching courses and how do you do it to developing and to bring people to study to become a coach, a professional coach, and to talk about a little bit more about the numbers. 70% are UEFA B and 30% UEFA A. Talk about a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I don't have a lot of answers for it because I'm not really involved in the football development side. But like I said, you cannot coach in Iceland unless you have a UEFA degree. We work a lot with the Scandinavian countries and UEFA. Just last weekend there were 4 or 5 coaches getting UEFA Pro License A. So we're very, very focused on the fact that the coaches have to be professional. It's sad to see, I think, that if you have kids, especially girls, playing football, and there's just a parent coaching them, it's not going to be successful. And we're trying to be innovative as well. We have 2 or 3 teams in Reykjavik that are trying a new thing with women's football, for example. I'm sorry I talk so much about women's football, but I have a girl who plays football. So, and she, they're trying a new method where the girls play they train once a week with the boys. It's a totally different football at that age, but we found out that it's very strange that, let's say, at the age of 10 or 12, a girl should be better at football than a boy. She is more physically developed. They are more, how do you say it, advanced in those early years. Mature, better. So it's strange to see that the boys are more technical and better at football at that age. So that is something we are looking at now.
Yes, here. Hi, Federico from Mexico, Confut Pro. I have a question. So it's easy to manage. Well, I wouldn't say it's easy in your case, but usually it's easier when you have a team that wins, right?
Yeah.
Like usually,
life's easier.
Yeah, it makes things easier. And everyone talks about you, and it's easy to be outside and be recognized for it. But you were talking about, you don't think that success that Iceland has achieved probably will reach a peak, or you're reaching a plateau there. What's the plan for the possibility of not having for the coming years, which hopefully you're not, but what's the contingency plan for Iceland football if it's not that successful on the pitch?
Yeah, that's what I was pinpointing earlier. The fact that we have, I wouldn't say we have like a golden age of players now, but we're a very good group of players now. We will not always be this good. We will always overachieve. We have always in our history, given the fact that we're such a small country with the shortest season in the world. We beat Russia, we beat Spain 20 years ago. So we've always been overachieving, but not this consistently. Our plan obviously is sort of developing the Icelandic way, not especially making money of a team or a brand that is successful, but that is known for something else. Especially if you look at the US market, everybody loves the underdogs. There's not one sporting movie in the US who is not about underdogs. So there are a lot of elements that we could work with. But yes, it's very easy and nice when you're winning. But we lost the last 2 games, and we're playing France next, so reality is hitting us hard.
Could you just explain, Iceland was at the heart of the economic crisis a decade ago. Would the development of Icelandic football have come sooner were it not for the economic crisis?
I actually don't believe so. All our numbers, and not just our numbers, but the official sporting governing body of Iceland showed that after the crisis, especially after it hit, people exercise figures went up. People sort of started exercising. Young people started doing more sports. People sort of looked inwards. They were trying to grow themselves. So, no, I don't think the economic crisis had hindered us in any way. I wouldn't say so. Thank you. But it was not good. It's not good to be broke.